it going, guys? Yeah, cheers for coming over and attending this this demo, this workshop. What I'm going to be talking you through is the update to Rekordbox. So I'd imagine most of you here sitting down are probably using Rekordbox. If not, you've probably heard of it. This time 3 years ago, or even, I think it was 4 years ago, I was giving a demo on Rekordbox and nobody had ever even heard of what it was or what it did. So I think the awareness of Rekordbox over the last couple of years has grown tenfold. If you haven't, in case you don't know what it is, the concept of the software in a very concise nutshell is it's a piece of organization and preparation software. So the idea being you can catalog your music and create playlists and organize a library of tracks, inside Rekordbox, but at the same time, optimize your tracks for use with the CDJ range or the Pioneer DJ range. We've got a number of other units outside of the CDJs that it works with as well. It's been, it's gone through stages, and I've used it for the last probably 2 years, maybe a bit longer. Even though I was talking about it, I never used to use it originally. I used to use Tractor. Other softwares are available. It was only I switched to this purely for the fact I had a few nightmare gigs and I switched to Rekordbox eventually because I wanted to play from a USB stick. I wanted the reliability of just playing tunes from this, the safety of not having to worry about my laptop in the booth while I'm playing or afterwards. That's why I started using that. And of course you can throw a load of tracks on a USB and plug it into a CDJ and it will work reasonably well. But you're really only getting 10% of what the CDJ can do. It's when you throw your tracks into Rekordbox that they're optimized, and then you get all of the benefits that you would get on the CDJ that you'd otherwise only get if you were DJing from a laptop piece of software. So it gives you quantized loops, pre-assigned beat grids, so the BPMs are all perfectly matched. It gives you advanced navigation, advanced categorization. The main reason I started using a laptop in the first place was so I could loop a track perfectly at the end. And this allowed me to do that. That's why I switched to a laptop. And this allowed me to do that, but without having to have the laptop there with me. It also enabled me to not burn CDs. So that was what I liked about it most. But I'm going to jump straight into it. We haven't got long. I've only got probably 15 minutes now. So it's a very concise talk on this software. I normally talk about this for maybe an hour, 2 hours sometimes. So I'll split it up into 3 sections, just in case you don't know what they are to start with, and I'll indicate it with my mouse. So everything above my mouse is my player window. Everything above my cursor there is the player view, and this is emulating a CDJ. You can see we got the transport controls on the left, and various other CDJ controls, hot cues, looping controls here, and then a memory slot bank over here, along with a waveform display, which will be activated in a minute. This is where we prep the track and assign hot cues and all the other controls I just mentioned. Everything below my mouse is the browser window. Now this is where I catalog my tracks and index them and organize them into the various different playlists and the different views that I want to actually see. But let's bring it to life straight away using the tree view, the tree window over on the side. So I'll just make that a little bit smaller. You can see differences from Rekordbox 2 to 3. I'm just going to scan from right so you can actually see a screenshot of the old view of Rekordbox. Not too dissimilar. This has been designed to be a bit more easy to navigate. It's definitely a hell of a lot more fluid when you're operating it, and it makes the workflow a hell of a lot easier. Once I start showing you the features, you'll see that. But it's definitely a lot less clunky. So this was the old version. Let's jump into some playlists. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is get music in here. So we've created the first unique tool on here. Well, it's not unique. It's very similar to an iPhone, but it's the Sync Manager. Now, this, I say is similar to an iPhone because normally I would have to open Rekordbox, find my source files, wherever they're kept. In my instance, it would be iTunes, which I'm going to open in another window over here. I'd have to throw my tracks into iTunes, my new tracks, into, let's use this demo BPM playlist I've got set up here. I'd have to throw my new tracks into there. I'd then have to go into Rekordbox, go to my iTunes tab, find that playlist, select the new tunes, and throw them into my Rekordbox playlist up the top. The sync manager does them steps all in one go for you. The same as when you connect your iPhone to iTunes and all your tunes come onto your iPhone. This does it in the same way. I'm going to show you instantly. Let's do it very quickly. I'll go down to my iTunes playlist in here. And it works in a slightly different way though. If I'm syncing a playlist in iTunes with Rekordbox, it's not going to appear in the playlist inside Rekordbox. You're going to actually be DJing from the iTunes tab down here. So you see in this BPM playlist, I've got a little sync logo indicating that this is actually synced with iTunes. There's what, 25 tunes in it? If I go into the playlist in iTunes, and let's actually quit Rekordbox just so you can actually see it, what happens when I reopen it. I'm going to go in, select, these are just completely random tracks. I don't normally work this randomly. I normally listen to what I DJ with before I play it. But let me throw it into this playlist and I'll sort it by date added. So all the new ones come straight up to the top. Yeah. Now, I'm going to not mess around with any ID3 tags just to save time. I'm just going to open Rekordbox, and as you'd expect, importing tracks, bang, it's done for you. All of the new tracks have been straight away imported. It just saves me the additional steps that I used to have to go through before, and you can see now I've got 29 tracks available in there. It just saves a bit of time. Now this sync manager I spoke about is just down here. If I open this up, this is where you change the settings. You need to choose that you want to have to synchronize your iTunes playlist, and then choose which playlist you want to sync. You can see I've only got one ticked, and that's the BPM demo playlist. This was called demo playlist up until yesterday. I've changed it to BPM playlist to, you know, fit in accordingly. This is because I don't want to compromise any of the rest of my library while I'm still kind of getting to grips with this. This is perfect if you're not using Rekordbox and you're going to start and you already use iTunes, then this is perfect. Go through, tick all your new playlists, and instantly it'll be thrown in there for you. I also have rated a lot of tracks in Rekordbox. If I sync all of my existing playlists with Rekordbox, for instance, if I sync this daytime entire folder, all of my ratings and all of my other ID3 tags will be overwritten. So I'm not going to do that for that specific reason. The second function of the sync manager is you can actually synchronize to your device as well. You can see it's grayed out at the minute. If I plug in my USB, really good USBs these. I always recommend people to use these. SanDisk Extreme Pro, they're really fast write speeds, so you don't have to wait a long time for your tracks to export. As soon as I plug it in, you can now go through and actually synchronize playlists with device as well. So just in one step, there's no more exporting tracks to USB. You can do it all from the sync manager. But I'm actually going to leave that off and show you the original way as well. So what can we do now in the new version of Rekordbox? We got this BPM demo playlist, and let's go to some of the new tracks, this Cozzy D track. I'm going to double click it and load it up into the player window to actually customize it. Bang. First thing, you can see new visuals. You've probably watched the video on this, so you would have seen this to a certain extent. I think we got sound. Now this is what I said when I said it acts similar to like a CDJ. We've got a little mini waveform at the top, turn it down a touch, to allow us to navigate through the whole track, like so. You can change the timing preferences. You can have time elapsed or time remaining. You can also see your BPM up here. What you can also see is brand new colors we've incorporated on this. So you can actually change the waveform color scheme by clicking on the little box to the right hand side of the wave. You can choose from the original blue, jump to purple. I guess it's aesthetics really, but it is functional. When you're in RGB, every frequency has its own color. So the lighter, if you go down to a breakdown, everything's green and purple. Get to the build-ups and the drops, bang, red. Low frequencies, high impact, they're all red. Different shades of red. So you can kind of determine that hit that we're about to see on that waveform will be a higher frequency. bass note, but it's obviously not as much low end as the kick and not as much impact. Let's jump into, let's actually set some hot cues and set some cue points and cue loops. These have been updated in this version. Before you set anything, you've got to check your beat grid. So I'm going to switch from cue loop mode to grid mode. It's a hell of a lot slicker now. I'm going to put on my metronome. Not that loud. Just double check through the whole track. If your beat grid is going to go out of time, which is what the metronome is clicking to, the red and white lines that you're seeing running across the transients of the track, if it goes out of time, then it means your beat grid's out of time, and you're going to have to use some of these controls across here that I'm indicating with my mouse now to manually adjust that beat grid. This is like a 20-minute talk in itself, adjusting beat grid, so I'm not going to go over that, but if you want to know more information, on the Pioneer stand, right at the main entrance, we've got a whole Rekordbox zone that you can come and ask as many questions as you want over there. That's perfectly in. So I'm going to jump back to cue loop mode. Jump to the drop. Now, I'm not going to hit Q and then press memory to set a memory point. I'm going to hit C on my keyboard. Shortcuts, it saves a lot of time. If I hit C, it's default set to be quantized now, whereas before you had to go in and hit quantize every time. That was a little bit irritating. Now I can press M. You can see up in the memory slot box, I've saved a memory point. These can now be loops. This is wicked. So let's delete that memory point and set a 16-beat loop. Now press C, press M. Because it was looping, but at the point when I pressed M, this memory point, which can be called up on the CDJ, which I could probably mix from every time I play this track, will be a 16-beat loop. So you don't have to worry about... I always work in loops now. Everything I set will be a loop because you've got the option to disable a loop. If you set that as a cue point, you haven't got the option to loop it. Whereas if you save it as a loop, it will start as a loop and you've got the option to disable it. So that's really useful to be able to punch in cue points as loops now. Sorry, memory slots as loops. I'm going to exit that. Go in, set a few hot cues, maybe at the drop. Bang. Set hot cue B as a loop. Just completely randomly setting these now, just because of time constraints when I'm talking about this. But what I would usually do is set the hot cues at key elements that I want to jump to while I'm mixing, and set cue points pretty much at every drop, like I have done just there. The reason I set them at every drop is because the CDJ will count down how many bars to the next upcoming cue point, which is really useful. You can actually see on every CDJ in the Pro DJ link, so if you've got one CDJ playing the track, if that's set to master, every CDJ that's linked will display the bar countdown when the drop is coming. For instance, here. Now, this looks like a pretty well-structured track, but tracks that are dropping on 15 bars or 14 bars or 38 bars, they don't adhere to, generic music structure. It can be a nightmare. Or tracks there's a massive 2-minute build up and you don't know when the drop's coming. You can see the bar countdown on the CDJ. It's really useful. What I would also do, jump to the end of the track and set a percussive loop. 8 beats. Let's set it correctly, which is there. Press C, press M. I've set another loop or a memory slot loop. And what I would do is hit that little loop icon to make it red. And that is created what we call an active loop. The CDJ, every time it reaches an active loop, in this case, that percussive loop at the end, it will automatically start to loop every time it reaches that point. Just a little fail-safe. You may have tracks, I always set them at the end, just in case. You might have to leave the booth for whatever reason. You may be, I don't know, really drunk or distracted or any hundreds of different reasons why you might not be able to get to mix. This is just a fail-safe. Ideally, you should have mixed out way before there, Other uses for that, though, you can set it at the start of the... if I've got a few tracks that start really good, 2 minutes of greatness, and then they go off on a tangent that I don't really so much like. So you can set an active loop at anywhere in the track. I'm going to skip through really quick all of the key features that I wanted to cover with you because I've got 2 minutes left, and I haven't gone through many of them. So let me jump through quickly. 2-player mode. This is amazing. I didn't think I would use this when I saw this and when I was speaking about it. It was only when I first used Rekordbox 3 to plan a set. You know, I'm a strong believer in deviating from your planned sets, but got to have an idea of, it depends what kind of DJ you are, I guess. But for my kind of DJing, I pick out 24 tunes if I'm playing or 30 tunes if I'm playing a 2-hour set. Look at them, listen to some kind of order that I'd like to go in, and then you've got a basic plan, and then you can deviate from that from past sets or randomness. You know, you just go off on one or whatever. Ideally, whatever you think the crowd want to hear is probably the key thing. But it's good to have some kind of idea where you want to go. This, if you're on the go, you don't have a chance to have a mix before you're going to play. This enables you to see 2 players. You can see I've got 2 sets of transport controls here now. And the original track that was playing will be on the top one. I'm going to jump in and load up another track into the bottom player window. This is default set to not be synced, but I've chosen sync on because obviously we're not beat matching here, we're not mixing, we're not performing. Every time I load up Rekordbox now, them sync buttons will be on. And every control, you can notice I'm hitting spacebar to trigger the player A from playing. If I hold shift, I'm now getting 2 players playing the tracks together. And a little crossfader over on the far left. I guess you could do a set of this, but it would be a pretty boring set. And you'd be standing there looking like you're checking your emails as well. But you can, what you can do really well is gauge if your beat grids are perfectly in, because if they're in, they're going to sync and both of them tracks will run perfectly together. And you can gauge what tracks will work together. I use this so much. It was such a feature I thought, oh, that's all right, I'm never going to use it. And I literally use it every time I'm looking through tracks now, just to see, oh, will it work? And then you know, yeah, that's going to sound amazing together. If you want to jump out, the only thing is you can't set cue points and you can't set memory points or hot cues whilst you're in this mode. So what you would have to do to make, you can set loops, so you can jump into a loop depending what you set on here, whether that's a 32 beat there or a 4-beat using the plus and minus buttons. But if you want to do any amendments, you have to switch back to just single player mode. Really useful feature. Some of the other amazing stuff they've put into this that's just really refined it for me. We got quad core processing, so you can, for anyone with massive amounts of music, big libraries, Rekordbox 2 was always an issue. Analyzing your tracks used to be probably the biggest thing I used to hear feedback on. It takes too long. It can't analyze my music. It can't cope with it. We developed this in-house now. You know, before it was made for us. This has taken us a while to get a software development team in place that's competent at doing this, and that's why we've taken so long. We wanted it to be right before this big Rekordbox 3 update come along. This has now got the power to analyze 4 tracks at a time. You know, all the strings of information can be analyzed all in one go, and it's just a million times faster. What I'm going to do is drag a load of other tunes, just literally drag and drop them, just for you to see, in case you haven't done already. Obviously, it depends on computer speed also, but if I drag these listed tracks straight into this playlist. Sorry, I need to be in a playlist up here, just for you to see. Daytime. As soon as they go in, and I scan to the bottom, you can see I'm playing iTunes. Am I? Don't know where that sound's coming from. I'll just mute my computer. You can see down here on my mouse, the analyzing is zipping through it. Really, you know, quick time. All them tracks will be done in an instant. And for those of you with big libraries, you can just throw it in, leave it overnight. It's so much more stable, so there's no worry about it crashing. And if there's tracks missing or any issues, it will skip past them and warn you at the end, instead of flashing up an error code and letting you leave it overnight and then it's being stopped. So you get up in the morning and go to get your USB stick and it's frozen halfway through because there's been an issue. It will just warn you at the end once it's done that. It also exports your tracks in the background now. When you're exporting to a USB stick, it used to flash up a big warning sign, not a warning sign, an exporting sign up on the top here to let you know the tracks were being exported. This meant you couldn't work while you were doing that. If I right-click on a playlist, there's only 2 tracks in this one, and click export, it does it down at the bottom, down here. Done it in an instant. But yeah, I'm going to sign off on this because we've got no time left, but I'm going to hit that, export, and you'll see it's doing it down here. So I can continue working, I can continue prepping, I continue about my day, my Rekordbox day, and it doesn't get in the way. Guys, I've literally skimmed the surface of the amazing things I think that are in this. The My Tag feature I really wanted to explain to you, but I haven't got any more time left. So please come over to the Pioneer stand and let me talk you through this in a little bit more detail, because it really has been refined. And if anyone is using Rekordbox 2 and they haven't quite made the switch, just do it. It uses the same database, so you can have both softwares on your computer, as I've got. If I want to go back to Rekordbox 2, I can at any time. And as soon as you open Rekordbox 3, it instantly picks up your old database. So there's no issues there. Just install them both and see how you get on with it. But yeah, thanks for your time. I'll see you over on the stand. Cheers.